I got a message says that it's being live streamed, so that's a good
Okay.
sign.
Yep. I think I got something done and I might be making progress here. Oh, looks like okay, coming up here. Okay, it's officially
It's being live streamed, so that's a good
okay.
sign.
Yep. I think I got something done and hold on here because now I'm getting echo because I got YouTube running in the background, etc. I'm gonna copy the stream. Let me mute YouTube. There we go. Let me go back to here. All right, and you're probably still listening, but I can't see anybody at the moment. Um,
I see
I
and
don't know
hear
where.
you.
Yeah, I don't know where. Oh, hold on here. Nope, that's the YouTube stream. Yeah, I can't see anybody. Um,
We can see you. Or I
yep,
can.
but I can't see you, which don't matter. As long I can hear you, I just can't see you. Um, Now hold on here. I'm gonna post this in. I'm gonna post the link in my Facebook group, and then when I say I'm ready, we can begin. Okay.
All right.
The, don't forget to tell everybody that these are the only candidates that showed up. Okay, we still there?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. I will get started. Um, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Cheektowaga Town Board Candidates Debate. I'm Natalie Brophy. I'm a reporter at the Buffalo News, and I'll be moderating this evening's discussion. This election for Town Board has 11 total candidates, 9 on the ballot, and 2 write-ins vying for 4 Town Board seats. With us tonight is 2 of those candidates, independent Daniel Collender and write-in Ted Morton. To begin, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, followed by 90 seconds to answer 12 questions about issues facing the town. I'll raise my hand when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. The candidates will respond to the questions alphabetically by their last name. So we'll start with Dan Collender and then move on to Ted Morton. Are you both ready to go?
I'm
Yes.
ready, but like I said, I don't have any video, so I'm not gonna be able to see you raise your hand. We're just gonna wing it right now. As long as you can see me and we have audio, I'm good to go.
All right. I'll stop you if you're going long. Okay. Dan, we'll start with you. Please introduce yourself and tell everyone why you are running for town board. You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Daniel Collender. I'm running under Dan Collender, and the party I have created is called People for Change with the number 4 in it. I'm an independent. I've never been elected before. I've never been in politics before. No one in my family's ever been in politics before. I self-employed individual. I've been married for 36 years. I have 2 adult children. Basically, I wanted to run for town board after spending 7.5 years with my Concerns of the Cheektowaga Taxpayers Facebook group and sending emails to the town board, and my emails getting ignored. And when I speak up at the town board here meetings, I get ignored. They pretty much don't do much of anything when I'm talking about whatever issue might be the flavor of the day, so to speak. I'm tired of not being, not being paid attention to. I'm tired of the overspending I'm tired of them not spending our money wisely. I'm tired of them overtaxing us. I'm tired of them giving the employees raises and then thinking that we're just going to pay for them automatically. I'm tired of them thinking those are $100 bills falling off our tree in the front yard or backyard or whatever tree you have, because they're not. We don't have an unlimited supply of money. Basically, I'm tired of government, and I figure the only way it's going to change is if I actually run for the seat and get on the board. I'm finished.
Okay, Ted, please introduce yourself and tell everyone why you are running for town board.
Okay, hello, everyone. Ted Morton, I've lived here in town almost 45 years, and a lot of similarities with Dan, but some big differences. One of the biggest differences, I have been involved in politics here in Cheektowaga since the mid 90s. And I have been involved with the town Republican Party during that time. And I ran for office several times and twice being elected as Erie County legislator, serving 2 terms, total of 4 years. Um, and I thought my last term ended in 2017. And I kind of thought at that time, okay, I've done my part, I'm done. So I stayed involved with the town Republican Party, helping other candidates. And 2 years ago is when things started to change in my thinking. We were at a candidates debate like this, where only the Republicans showed up. And one of the questions was about in terms of cutting expenses or cutting the deficit and expenses in town, how would they do it? And they all said higher revenue. And I was kind of taken aback because I think the town has far too many employees per population relative to other towns. So right there, I started wondering about, the direction that these Republicans that I'm helping to get elected were going to go. And sure enough, they get elected. And of course, in 2024, the board was 3-3. And I started seeing votes that were totally contrary to everything in the previous 25 years that had been discussed in the town Republican Party. So that's something that started to work at me. And then I met Dan at board meetings and seeing Dan and talking to Dan. And when Dan said he was going to run, I thought this is great. An outsider, someone that is not going to be controlled by the town unions, is someone that we need in Cheektowaga. So I assisted Dan earlier this year, helping him get the required signatures needed as an independent, which was 3 times what either party needed. But we got those signatures. And then again, continuing to go to town board meetings and seeing more and more outrageous things being done by people that I helped get there. I was so taken aback. I just decided, okay, I've got to try again because the 5-2 majority this year, Republican, are not. And then I found out the hard way that 4 of the 5 are former Democrats. And they didn't switch because of values. They switched just to get elected. And it shows with their votes. Thank you.
Okay, and Dan, first question of the night for you. Property taxes are always a concern for residents. How would you keep taxes in check while ensuring essential town services aren't cut?
Uh, that's a great question. It's actually a very difficult question because most of our budget, about 70% of it, is controlled by the union and the collective bargaining agreements, and there's 5 unions in town. As far as what I cut, it's very difficult. I would reduce spending. I'd go through the budget line by line and I would find places to cut. It could be anywhere because you can't just cherry pick. When you got to reduce, you got to reduce. Can we reduce taxes? I don't think we can reduce taxes, but we can keep the tax increases very low by spending wiser, smarter, stretching our dollars. I really don't know what the total answer would be for cutting taxes other than get rid of the union contracts and start from scratch and negotiate ones that are more favorable to the taxpayers or the property owners.
Okay. Ted, same question. Property taxes are always a concern for residents. How would you keep taxes in check while ensuring essential town services are not cut?
Okay. And again, this goes back to efficient use of the dollars that are received. I'll give you a great example. A year or so ago, I went in front of the town board and I was telling them about something I learned from the Depew mayor, that they store their extra cash, something that New York State started called the New York State Class Money Market. It pays a lot more than any local bank is going to pay. Cheektowaga wasn't doing it. Cheektowaga in February has $180 million in the bank because they receive all of this tax money all at once. And then that money is spent over the course of a year. Well, getting an extra 2% is hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it was something that they started doing, and the town supervisor just acknowledged it this past Tuesday that thanks to me, Ted Morton, telling the town board about it, they started doing it and they're going to have an extra $500,000. So it's being efficient with everything, not only spending, but also with money that's received. But Dan is perfectly correct in terms of the union contracts. One of the biggest things when I was a town Republican in the Republican Party, we always said for the 25 years, we always said the unions control the Democratic Party. They controlled the board members. The board members gave them what they wanted to keep them in power. Well, now those board members have switched. Enough of them have switched to control the Republican Party, and therefore you're not going to get taxpayers will not get fair contracts when you have the town employees basically controlling the elected officials.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Dan, if you had to choose, what would be your top three priorities for town spending and why?
My top three priorities, police. We always got to have police. Our uptick in stolen cars and the revolving door with the teenagers. Last night was a prime example of that. They haven't said it was a stolen car yet, but 15-year-olds driving a car that caused a fatality. My next one would be highway. We need the roads paved. We need the roads plowed. We need to treat the roads in the winter. And thirdly, uh, probably senior services. Our seniors, they definitely need some help with our high taxes. We're taxing them out of their homes. We've got to help them. It's a catch-22 though, because you're helping them by giving the senior center more money that the taxpayers are actually paying for. So, it's a catch-22. If we didn't tax them so much, these seniors would have more money. Thank you.
And Ted, if you had to choose, what would your three top priorities be for town spending and why?
Well, police obviously are number one. Where we're located relative to the city, having the Walden Galleria, that there's a lot of crime that goes on there. So the police, highway is second, because again, it's something that people use every single day. They're out on the roads or sidewalks, whatever. But both of those, before I get to the third one, both of those, um, you have to they have to be run efficiently. And that's the thing that we need to look at. Are they being run as efficiently as they possibly can? And then the third one, my one difference with Dan, is infrastructure. The sewers and things like that. Some of it Cheektowaga controls, some of it is controlled by other agencies. But I'll give the folks here a great example what happened in the last 2 years with infrastructure. Cheektowaga went to the LED lights like most of municipalities done in the last few years. Depew, which is two-thirds in Cheektowaga, its own entity, also 2 years before Cheektowaga changed its lights to the LED. But what the mayor of Depew did, instead of just taking the bid of 1.2 million from the Wendell Corporation, the same company that Cheektowaga did, he went to the utilities and the utilities said, we'll do the exact same thing for 60,000. Cheektowaga spent $12 million on something they could have done for $500,000. The residents in Depew broke even in 8 months. It's going to take 15 years in Cheektowaga. So all of these things, the dollars need to be looked at efficiently, how they're being spent.
There have been discussions over the years about shrinking the size of the board from 7 members to 5, as well as setting term limits for town elected officials. Dan, are you in support of either of those proposals? Why or why not?
I am in support of both of those. We are the only town, I believe, in Erie County that has 7 members, so 6 board members and a supervisor. Even Amherst only has 5, and Amherst's population is about 30, 40, 50,000 more than ours. Term limits, yes, I am for term limits. I will self-impose term limits on myself. I will stay in 1 or 2 terms max, and that's it. I'm not looking to jump up to supervisor. I'm not looking to be, go to county government. I'm not looking to go anywhere else. I am a fan of term limits. I will bring up a resolution with term limits on it. Hopefully, if I get elected, and hopefully we'll have some support on the board because all those Republicans said they were for term limits in 2023 when they did a debate.
And Ted, are you in support of shrinking the board from 7 members to 5 or setting term limits? Why or why not?
Okay. On the size of the board, yes, I am certainly in favor of 7 to 5. Right now, there's a lawsuit against Cheektowaga in terms of should there be wards and disenfranchising of African American votes. So right now, until that's settled, we probably couldn't go from 7 to 5. By it, when and if it can happen, I'm certainly a vote for that. The term limits. This is an interesting one. Dan just said 2 years ago, all the Republicans running were for it. The 25 years I was active in the town Republican Party, we were always for term limits. Okay. Last year, the board was 3 to 3, 3 Republican, 3 Democrats. The 3 Republicans brought up term limits, knowing the Democrats didn't support it, so it failed. This year, the board is 5 to 2 Republican. And guess what, Cheektowaga residents? The Republicans haven't brought up term limits, even though, as they said they supported, it would pass easily. Now that they can, they refuse to. So yes, I'm in favor of term limits. I'm in favor of downsizing the board from 7 to 5.
Okay. Next question is about the police department. The Cheektowaga Police Department is one of the largest town forces in Western New York. If you're elected to the board, how would you help the town better support first responders and ensure public safety, especially at a time when calls for mental health and quality of life issues are increasing?
Well, I'm in the belief right now that our police department is very well funded. They get just about everything they want. I'm all for that. They got to have good cars, they got to have good radios, they have to have, you know, good equipment, all the training they have to go through. They are well funded. I don't know, compared to other towns, I don't know how well funded they are, but I constantly seeing every single town board meeting, if you go look at the warrants or you look at the resolutions, there's always some funding. They're buying something. They have their own shooting range. We actually rent it out to other towns. So I don't know how we can make that aspect any better. Um, we can try and hire better quality people, which I know is a challenge. As far as the mental health stuff, we have mental health people already. I don't know how we make that any better, seeing we already have it. And to be honest, I don't know what the stats on how many calls they go out to. So I really can't say how would you make it better when I don't have the data to say if they're doing a lot of calls or only doing a couple calls. I have heard that it is working, and that's about as much as it. The town board really isn't giving us much information on, specific details, number of calls they go out on. what the outcomes of the calls are, more importantly, to know that that's working. So, our police are great. Okay. We may have a cop or two out there, just like every department that might be, not so great, but, we can get around that. We got to reduce that kind of stuff, and we got to support the great police people that we have that've been there a long time. They show up for work. They go out there. I listen to them on my scanner. I hear how hard they're working. They're chasing people down. They're going after people, shoplifters, et cetera, et cetera. They're hustling from one call to another. I hear all that. Nothing like seeing what they do though. So really, I can't comment on how I'd make it better. To me, being an outsider, I think they have it pretty good. Maybe if the insiders might tell me different. Thank you.
And how, sorry, Ted, how can the town better support first responders and ensure public safety, especially as calls for mental health and quality of life issues increase?
Well, just like Dan, being on the outside now, I am limited to only knowing what I hear at board meetings, and I go to taxpayer group meetings, and oftentimes there's a police officer there that will talk or whatever. So number one, I am a firm believer. Any level of government, the protection and safety of its citizens is always number one. And again, where Cheektowaga is located in Erie County, we are always going to need a large, well-qualified, well-trained, well-equipped staff. One of the things I just heard from the supervisor the other day is I think they have 8 or 10 or 12 officers less than what is recommended for our size because of retirements and moving and things like that, whatever. And unfortunately, in our country today, there is there's this negative thought process about becoming a law enforcement officer. So apparently, the academies are not getting the people they need. But I know our department is actively trying to get back to full employment, which if the number is, I heard around 120, if that's the accurate number, then we need to get there as soon as possible. But yeah, the safety of the citizens is by far, in my opinion, the number one issue of any elected official. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next question. How would you strike a balance between the town wanting to attract new businesses, but also maintain neighborhood character?
Well, attracting new businesses, our town, I don't think has been doing a spectacular job on that. The ECIDA loves to give out tax breaks to these businesses, which really doesn't help the town, in my opinion. It actually penalizes the taxpayers while benefiting corporations. Many times they are wealthy corporations, and I consider it corporate welfare. As far as what would I do? Um, I would go out and start looking for companies that are start searching the internet, see who wants to come to town. I mean, we missed out on Costco. How come we don't get a Costco? Other towns want to know why don't they get certain things? And I realize these companies they go out and they do a lot of research, and they get a lot of demographics, and they're shooting for a certain demographic, a certain amount of income. They want you to be in this income range, et cetera, et cetera. And these companies actually dictate where they want to go, at least when they're retail companies. As far as manufacturing, I don't know if we can, how much more room for manufacturing we can put in here. We certainly have a lot of vacant retail space though. So, we can definitely attract some more retail. We have the Galleria Mall, and, that at some point, that may go out of business. The town board needs a plan for losing more tax dollars from that. They're already only paying half of what they paid about 10 years ago in taxes. And what was the second part of the question?
How would you strike the balance between attracting businesses, but also maintaining neighborhood character?
Yeah, I would not put like a warehouse in where a retail place used to be. Let's take the Garden Village Plaza, for instance. That was in a pretty good retail place for the neighborhood, and then we end up with a warehouse complex. That does nothing other than make the neighborhoods where they have to drive. They've got to drive further down the road to do their grocery shopping when there used to be a Tops in that plaza. Now you got to drive 5 miles away, 3, 4, 5 miles away to go shopping, which, in the scheme of things, it's super far away, but it's not right around the corner or a mile away like the Garden Village Plaza was. So I would try to prevent things like that from going in and developers like Benderson taking advantage of the residents by buying property and letting it get dilapidated so that they'll take
Okay,
anything and everything
you're
they
out
can
of
get
time. Thank
to
you.
you.
And Ted, same for you. How would you balance attracting business with maintaining neighborhood character?
Okay. This is an issue that I think is so important for the elected officials to closely talk to and listen to people in affected neighborhoods. And I'll give you a great example. I think it was earlier this year or last year on Transit Road, just north of French Road in South Cheektowaga. There was a vacant spot and a tire company wanted to move in on the corner lot. I can't remember the side street, but it was right across from Delta Sonic on Transit Road. Well, there were residential houses across the street, next door to the lot, whatever. And they came to the board meetings en masse and they complained based on what they saw of being a relatively quiet, peaceful place, other than the traffic of Transit Road, but then it being compounded by this new business. And they basically made it clear to the elected officials this is not going to fit in our neighborhood. And I give the board credit. They denied the request. So I think it's so important. We have parts of the town that are designated industrial and of course retail, residential, things like that. It's when they get close to each other or something new happens is when it's so important for elected officials to closely listen to the people that are going to be affected by that. I live several miles from where that was going to take place. I wouldn't have had the slightest clue that that was an issue, but it was important to those people. So again, yes, we want growth. We want things to help spread the cost, in terms of taxation. But it is something elected officials have to listen to, the residents of the affected areas very clearly.
Okay. And this is a question that a resident sent in. They want to know, what is your position on funding capital projects?
Funding capital projects, is that specifically with the town funding capital projects? If it is, then I think, it depends on what the capital project is. That dictates the whole thing. Uh, let's say they wanted to build another new courthouse. I would be absolutely against it because the courthouse is not that old. Let's say they wanted to build a new town hall. I'd be against that now because we just put a fortune into it with ARPA money. Um, if they wanted to go and build a new splash pad and take out a pool, I would be for that. I'd be willing to entertain that. It's got to be a good fiscally sound and responsible idea that makes a lot of sense. So really, it would depend on exactly what the project is, but I'm fiscally conservative and I'm all for needs, not wants. There's a lot of wants in this town, but there's a lot more needs, and we got to make sure that we take care of the needs and we have the money to fund those needs. Thank you.
Okay. And Ted, what is your position on funding capital projects?
Okay. Um, for the most part, when we're talking capital projects, we're normally talking about highways, reconstruction, um, uh, trucks, things like that that have lifetimes of 10 or 15 years, something like that. Normally, you would match up borrowing for something like that with the lifespan of the project normally. Cheektowaga has done so much borrowing in the past. I would hope for at least a few years, we can reduce the amount of borrowing to bring those costs down. Now, people always say, well, if you borrow, you're going to pay X amount of interest. Well, that's true, but a year and a half ago, Cheektowaga borrowed for a project, and I'm sorry, they paid cash for it. Cash at that time in the New York class money market was yielding 5.5%. They should not have paid cash. They should have borrowed. They could have borrowed at 3. Any one of you that's fortunate to have bought a house in the last 10 years and your mortgage is at 3 or 4% and you're earning 5 or 6 or 7% on cash relatively safely, you're not going to take that cash and pay off a debt. So this is something I've seen. Cheektowaga has not had proper management with their cash, with their finances over the years. There is a time to borrow and there is a time not to borrow. But generally speaking, yes, you want to match it up, borrowing in the length of something, but also look at the alternative, what you can earn on that cash. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Dan, start with you. The town board has been criticized in the past for partisan division. How would you work across party lines to get things done?
Well, to start with, I'm an unaffiliated voter. That means my voter registration says no party on it. Okay, I can work with anybody that has fiscally smart ideas, fiscally sound for needs, not wants. I really don't care what their party is because I'm unaffiliated. I'm only with a party now on the ballot because I had to have one in order to even be on the ballot. So I created People for Change. But I can work with people on the board. I don't have any problem with that as long as they have fiscally sound ideas. I'll work on any of those. You know, if they make sense, we can fund it properly. We don't borrow money for eternity. You know, we're not spending 15 years on projects or whatever that are only going to last 5 years and you got to rebond them again. I don't want none of that nonsense. That's not spending wisely. But if you got a good idea, a good fiscally sound way of paying for it, I'm there. I'm there. You know, we got to watch our spending. Got to make sure we can fit it in without increasing taxes. And I'm willing to listen to that kind of stuff. So, I'm overall, I can work with anybody on the board that has good fiscally sound ideas.
Okay. And Ted, how would you work across party lines to get things done on the town board?
Okay, let me just give you a quick example. In the 4 years that I was county legislator, the Republicans had the majority, 6-5. However, there were times when I didn't agree with my Republican colleagues. And one year in particular, they wanted to spend a lot more money than me and one of my other Republican colleagues felt was wise. So we went against them. And you know what? They didn't talk to me for weeks and weeks and weeks, whatever, because I dared go against the majority of the majority. And it just was crazy. So I will do what I think is right for the taxpayers. Just like when I was legislator, even though I was told this is a re-election year, Ted, you got to spend this extra money. It makes us look good. It wasn't right for the taxpayers that were paying these taxes. So I went against my own party, protecting the taxpayers and what I could do. It's going to be the same thing on the town board. If I'm elected, I will work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, whatever their affiliation is, as long as it benefits the taxpayers. So, in terms of civility, yes, I have been witness to many an interesting moment at board meetings when things get out of hand. And, a lot of it is uncalled for. We're going to have disagreements. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, you're going to have disagreements. You can be civil about it. And like I said, yes, I will work with anyone as long as they're putting the taxpayers first.
Okay. Moving on to our next question. Road paving, drainage, stormwater management all remain important concerns in the town. How would you prioritize infrastructure improvements?
I would probably to prioritize them based on the need. Okay, all the roads are supposed to be getting graded. I imagine our drainage systems, they should be graded too. Maybe they're not. If they're not, they should be. So we know as a board member the severity, yeah, of the necessity. So that means that, if we got this drainage pipe that there is a collapse in, okay, and then the next street over, we got a drainage pipe that's not collapsing, but that's the one you scheduled to replace, that would be a no-no. Now you got to replace the one where you got the sinkhole. Um, and obviously, it's a sinkhole. It needs to be done. You can't argue about that too much. We got to have good drainage. We don't want people's basements backing up with stormwater, sewage, or whatever because the town-owned pipes are failing. So that needs to be done. The bigger question is, how do you pay for it? And we've already discussed some of that. And yes, I'm not against bonding. People think I am, but I'm not against bonding. I think bonding has its place. You got to do it smartly. You wouldn't want to bond for 40 years. I don't even think you want to bond until for the life of the project. I like to bond less time, and that way you get at least a free ride there. Bond it for 5 years less than what it's projected to last. That way you got 5 years of free time. You can start saving up a little bit of money if you wanted to. That's just the way I think. It's just like buying a car, and you take out a loan for 6 years, you know, you, you're going to keep the car 10 years. You don't want to take a loan out for 10 years and keep the car 10 years. That's just my opinion. That's how I'm fiscally responsible. And, I'd love to get more projects done. We got to save a little bit for some. We got to figure out how to be more or less reliant on the bonding and only using it when it's strategically necessary and we can benefit from it more than just creating more debt because the town has $367 million worth of future liabilities already, of which 74.5 million of that is bonding debt. And we're paying 2.8 million in interest on that bonding debt this year, 2.7 million next year. Thank you.
Okay. Ted, how would you prioritize infrastructure improvements like roads, drainage, stormwater management?
Okay. As I had mentioned earlier, that was one of my big concerns or things that always look at is infrastructure. Now, Cheektowaga is kind of unique in the fact that the Erie County Sewer District has a big chunk of Cheektowaga that they handle. I believe it's in the southern part of Cheektowaga, and then the town of Cheektowaga does, I think, the northern end. Not exactly clear on that, but so we have county agencies too that we're dealing with. But yes, overall, um, infrastructure is so important. And here's something I want to make clear. There are so many different issues when you're on a supervisor or a town board that you may be an expert in one, but you're probably not an expert in all of them. What I firmly believe in is instead of trying to reinvent the wheel if you're not an expert, go and talk to people that have already reinvented the wheel. I gave you the example earlier of the mayor of Depew who saved his people hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the LED transfer by finding a proper bid that the Cheektowaga board, and many of them are up this year on Democrat and Republican side that voted for it. Not one of them went to the mayor who has 10,000 of his citizens in Cheektowaga. Not one of them went to the mayor or any other place and said, hey, how are you handling the LED thing? So whether it's the roads or pipes or whatever, I'm not an expert there, but I'm not against going to the towns that are, in my opinion, much better run and finding out what they are doing. And if they're doing something better, cheaper, more efficient, and still getting good results, let's take a look at that. Thank you.
What is one specific change that you would make to improve transparency and or communication between the board and Cheektowaga residents?
I would post more of the documents on the town's website that the town is failing to put on there now. One example, I'll give you a couple examples. One of them is none of the collective bargaining agreements with the 5 unions is posted on the town website. Okay. None of the now I'm having a brain fart here. There's a lot of things on there. Oh, the town budget. Okay, the town puts a 54-page budget up on the town website when there's actually a 174 to 200-page version they should be putting on there. I have to foil those each and every year. They should put up the town employee salary or wage reports. Okay. Other towns put all that stuff up without people having to foil them. Those are just a few examples of stuff I would put up, make more transparent, better use of the town website by putting documents up that the people should be able to see. I think the people should have been able to see the documents the town board was using today to argue over what's things they want to cut from the budget. Okay. We did not get any access to them documents that I am aware of. If they're up there, I didn't see them. That stuff, that it's simple transparency. If the town board has a document in their hand at a meeting and it's a public meeting, that document should be put online so that all the people can see it. The exact same document and follow along with it. Thank you.
Okay. And Ted, what's one specific change you would want to make to improve transparency and or communication between the board and town residents?
Well, as Dan said, and following Dan, it sounds like I'm going to repeat everything he says, but I certainly agree that too many things in Cheektowaga are not made public, that are made public in other Erie County towns. I mean, it's not like we're a town of 500 or even 5,000. We're the second largest town in Erie County. Why shouldn't we have the employee contract? I mean, if the board is voting for these employee contracts, they're obviously proud of them. They put their name and their vote behind them. Show all the residents of Erie or of Cheektowaga, what the contracts are. So yeah, it like Dan said, there are so many things in Cheektowaga you have to foil that should be listed automatically on the town board or on the town website, whatever. And it's a very, very frustrating thing. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to another question submitted by a resident. He said, the Erie County Vector Program has proven to be ineffective on its own in battling the town's rat infestation. What do you plan to do to eradicate the rat issue in town, and how would you convince your fellow council members to use town funds to make that a priority?
I've had experience with the Erie County Vector Program, and yeah, it is disappointing. They don't even know the gestation period of a rat, so when they come and check your bait, it's already beyond that, which is a gestation period for rats about 21 days for anybody wants to Google that and verify. Um, I have talked to Senator April Baskin. Speaking of reaching across the aisle, I'm not even elected yet. I brought this up. She was sitting next to me at the Williams Street Taxpayers Association last week or the week before, and I told her, or I didn't told her, I asked her if there was any grants the town can get to help fight this rat problem that we have in town. I think getting some grants to help fight that would be a good thing. The town actually budgeting for it would be a good thing. It's not a new problem by any means. If you go back and you look at the historical archives of the town board meetings, you'll see people back in the 40s and 50s were complaining about rats in town. Um, Some people think they don't have them, but I'll guarantee you, if I put a trail cam up in your backyard, they're going to find a rat on that trail cam at some point within a couple days. It's no, it's everybody has them. They're all over. It's annoying. Um, and they say get rid of the food source. You can't get rid of the food source. They'll eat night crawlers. Blah blah blah. I've been there. I've done the trail cams. I got video. Um, I've had the county out. I know how frustrating it is. I will do whatever I can to try and get some funding and come up with a program to help the town residents in addition to the county and the state. I will work across those aisles. I will work with those people to help us try and eradicate this nuisance. Thank you.
Ted, how would you plan to eradicate the rat issue in town and convince fellow council members to use town funds to make that a priority?
Okay. I'll be honest with you. This is not an issue that I have a lot of experience with. I mean, I live in the what is it, northeastern part of Cheektowaga, Transit and Genesee area. And I've been here 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a rat. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying it's not a problem. But my natural response to that is to search out communities that have successfully done things to combat this. Find out what they're doing right and then implement them in Cheektowaga. If it means we have to work with Erie County for additional funding, New York State for additional funding, or if there is no funding, we have to do it ourselves. I understand those places that do have rat problems. That's a major quality of life issue. So I'm not against alleviating and getting rid of them. But again, my natural response is finding places that have been successful and then implementing those types of policies. But yeah, it is something that it's certainly not fair for anyone, whether it's a homeowner or renter living in Cheektowaga, to have to put up with such a thing. Thank you.
Okay. And next question, Dan, what specific steps would you take to address blighted or neglected properties in the town?
Well, blighted and neglected properties seem to be all over the place. I go walking door to door, and even in my part of town, South Cheektowaga off of French Road, I would say every other street has at least one house that has paperwork taped all over the door on it. Um, Steps that need to be taken are before it gets that way. Uh, you know, the town has building inspectors. They drive around. I know they write people up for stuff. And I'm sure they've written up plenty of these properties because the paperwork is literally taped to the door. Um, so going around and trying to, just writing it up is not solving the problem. Writing it up isn't creating the problem either. Uh, it is really a tough question because the law only allows you to do so much, and then you have to follow the current laws before you can actually act on the problem. Um, I mean, I heard the other day, I think we have 167 or so foreclosed properties in town again. Okay, that's back up to, the high numbers that we had about 10 years ago. And that's unacceptable. And part of the reason for the blight in that is our high taxes. Okay, people, they got to pay their taxes when here they could be using their $3,000 to $5,000 in taxes on their house if they had it. But no, the town is saying, nope, you gotta pay the taxes. So it's a double-edged sword, the taxes are. You're causing a lot of the blight. Okay, to fix the blight, you got to go knock on doors, talk to people, and see what you can do. And I know the police have, in some of the taxpayer meetings I've been at, have told us about certain properties, and there's really nothing they can do with them. They knock on the door, they talk to the people. The people actually, they need some mental help, some type of counseling of some sort. They just don't want to take care of the property. They don't have the money. And once again, I'll fall back on taxes. That's probably the biggest reason for blight in the town is our taxes are too high It's taking money out of people's pockets that they could be spending on their properties instead of
Right.
giving to the town
We're out of
and
time.
giving
Thank
to
you.
all the town employees.
Ted, same question. What specific steps would you take to address blighted or neglected properties in town?
Okay. As Dan pointed out, there's generally speaking, there's two types of those properties. Ones that are vacant. And those are the ones that are vacant could lead to rat problems, could lead to crime issues, but it certainly hurts the quality of life for neighbors when there's an empty, vacated house in their neighborhood. So you got that. And then, like Dan said, also, there's a type where people live in there, but they can't keep up. So obviously, with that type, you need to find out why, what the problem is, and see if it's again state or county officials, mental health people that need to be involved, and see what the town can do to possibly assist without going overboard. Okay, because the town's not big enough to do everything. But getting back to the first, um, at the town level, I've heard this many times. It is a very frustrating thing that there are primarily state, some county, but state issues and regulations and rules that prevent towns from doing something. So I guess the thing that I would like to see happen is an active accounting of all of those places, maybe in, again, two categories: those that are vacant, those are not kept up to proper standards, so that the board is well aware of it. And then what the board can do to assist um, our fellow elected officials at the county and state level, and reach out to help these people. Obviously, it's a tough situation. Thank you.
Okay. And we will move on to the final question before we do our wrap up. Um, so the two-part question. What do you see as Cheektowaga's biggest opportunity and also Cheektowaga's biggest challenge in the next 3 years?
Well, the biggest challenge is going to be spending, the town spending in particular to keep taxes low. The biggest opportunity is probably going to be coming up with a plan for the Galleria Mall of some sort. The town has to be involved in that, and in that, if that's not retail anymore, and they've been in foreclosure and they've been playing around with that pyramid company in and out, and they have closed a couple malls. So the town, the opportunity could be almost anything could be put in there. I mean, just think about it. You could make it apartments. You could make it a walking place. Obviously keep some restaurants in there. It could be a community of its own. That would be a fantastic opportunity for residents if we had to go that way, and it certainly looks like most of the malls in Erie County are going that way. Um, with the Galleria still being one of what, two malls open. The McKinley Mall's got 1 foot in the grave, or maybe they got 1 foot and one toe in the grave. The Galleria Mall's actually got 1 foot in the grave because it's been foreclosed on. They took it to court. The Pyramid Company got to keep managing it for some reason. The court allowed them to. I don't know why. But like I said, the biggest opportunity that's probably it. I don't see, any stadium coming here or anything like that. So, we need that asset. It's brought a lot of tax dollars in. If it goes away, we're going to lose a lot of tax dollars that the residents in the commercial properties are going to have to make up the difference. So, you can actually say Galleria Mall probably for both of those answers.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ted, over the next 3 years, what do you see as Cheektowaga's biggest opportunity and challenge?
Okay, I would say opportunity, maybe more than 3 years, but it could be looked at for 3 years, is the fact that we are the biggest part of Erie County to the east of Buffalo. We have the airport. We have the 90 running through it. And when I say the 90 running through it, trucks and businesses are so keyed in on being close to transportation hubs. Okay. We as a town need to continue to advocate our advantages that in Amherst doesn't have, or West Seneca or Tonawanda. Again, we've got the airport, we've got all of these transportation hubs in Cheektowaga that should, with proper management, allow us to continue to grow in terms of businesses and industry, things like that. Challenges, I honestly think it's the contracts that the current board continues to sign. They seem to not care about the taxpayers. And when I say contracts, I don't mean to knock the employees because most of them are hardworking and dedicated to the town. But you know what? When you're paying $100,000 a year compensation for part-time sanitation people, that's a killer. I ran for supervisor 14 years ago and I advocated privatization. 14 years later, $5 million a year more that we spend on sanitation than we would if it was privatized. In today's dollars, at 70 million. As Dan said a little while ago, we're in debt for about 70 million. Oh boy, there's a heck of a correlation between these contracts that are in place and the damage it does to the finances and the future of Cheektowaga. So that's my biggest concern over the next 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll wrap up tonight with closing statements from each of the candidates. You'll both have 3 minutes to make your final pitch and answer the question, why should voters choose you to represent them on the town board? We'll start with Dan.
Well, I think voters should vote for me because I am a true outsider. I've never been involved in politics. I've never been a town employee. I'm on the outside looking in. I'm like a junkyard dog when it comes to the town board. I've been commenting on them, criticizing them, making suggestions, recommendations. I sat on the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee for all 4 years it existed. I am pro-taxpayer. I'm fiscally conservative. I think the town spends too much and they don't spend our money wisely. I have ways to change that. If you go to dancolander.com, you'll see my to-do list. I think we can make the change people want. I am the only candidate on the ballot that has change in my name. So I'm running under People for Change. There's no other party on there that has change in it. So if you want more of the same, vote for the same. If you want change, vote for People for Change. Thank you.
Ted, why should voters choose you to represent them on the town board?
Well, thank you. And as I said earlier, when I was elected, and I've run 6 times in my life, I was elected twice at Erie County legislature. I did what I always felt was in the taxpayers' interest, even when it went against my party. So I am afraid to take a stand when it comes to the taxpayers. As I said earlier, I thought for sure I was done with politics. Anyone that's ever run for any office that's in a contested race knows how much time and effort is involved in running. And again, at 66, I kind of thought my time was over. I have seen how this board operates. I have seen how the town Republicans, and I've been a Republican since 18. I have seen how they are now, and they are not the Republican Party for decades that represented Cheektowaga. Matter of fact, of the 8 people, not myself, Wally, and Dan, of the 8 other people that are running, 4 listed as Republicans, 4 listed as Democrats. In reality, all 8 are Democrats. The 4 Republicans were Democrats, 2 of them as early as this year, and switched, not because they believe in fiscally conservative things that Republicans used to believe in outside, and they do outside of Cheektowaga, but they did it to get back on the board, to stay in power. I am so sick and tired of that. I see how other towns, their taxes, their services are so much better. Taxes are lower because they don't have boards that keep paying part-timers $100,000 a year for 3.5 hours a day of work. It's an obscenity. And I am so tired of seeing that. I'm so tired of my tax dollars go to people that are compensated that way with the understanding they will then work to keep the people that put them there in power. It's ridiculous. As I said earlier, when I met Dan and I saw how interested and involved he was at town board meetings, and when he said he was going to run, I was a natural person to join his campaign as a Republican. And he had Democrats helping, Republicans, people from across the spectrum, all of us that see the situation in Cheektowaga and know that this town could be better run. That, just because you had a certain job in the past doesn't mean you're going to be a good board member. These people have proven they're not good board members. They put the taxpayers secondary every single time. I won't do that. Walter won't do that. And I know Dan won't do that. So I am proud to be running this year Cheektowaga Town Board with Dan, with Walter, so that we can make some serious change in Cheektowaga starting January 1st, 2026. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dan and Ted, for joining us tonight, and thank you, Dan, for putting this all together. Election Day is coming up on Tuesday, November 4th, and early voting starts tomorrow. You can visit the Erie County Board of Elections website to find your polling place and view a copy of your ballot.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you for hosting it or moderating it. It's been
Thank
a
you for having
pleasure.
me.
And yes, early voting tomorrow in Cheektowaga. The senior center is doing the early voting, but I believe you can vote at any of the early voting places in the county. But if you want to stick in Cheektowaga, you got to go to the senior center. Thank you.